Today's training will focus on Aloha Table Service Manager Front of House Basics. We'll be applying comps, voids, accessing checks, editing clock-in times, amongst other functions. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. First, we'll enter our employee number on the employee login screen. Our number today will be 105. So we'll enter 105 and say OK. This is going to take us to the clock-in screen. If we have multiple jobs assigned to our profile, we'll see them listed here. And sometimes you'll just see it will be listed as manager if you just have the manager job assigned. So this time we're going to have to highlight manager, and on the right we'll click clock in. This takes us to our floor plan screen. Let's explore the floor plan screen. Across the top we have buttons for the dining room, so we're in the dining room floor plan. We have a start phone order and access pay phone order for the Aloha takeout interface. We have tables listed. Some tables are listed in purple, which lets us know they're being managed by a server currently. And of course the tables in white are open and available. If we have tables listed underneath our profile, we'll see them listed in green in the floor plan. On the right side of the screen we have the WWT screen button, which is going to take us to the Working with Tables screen, and some other various functions available within the floor plan to combine detached tables, and you can see the different table owners and the time the tables were opened as well. So we can toggle between these functions. We also have the ability to adjust tips from here. And if we hit done, it will exit the floor plan screen and exit Aloha. Let's take a look at the Working with Tables screen. So in the upper right, we'll click WWT screen. Let's explore the Working with Tables screen. In the left side of the screen, we have a table which would take us back out to our floor plan. We have a new button which would let us open a new table or tab. We can adjust payments, we can adjust tips, open the cash drawer. We could refresh the screen so we could get a refresh going on to make sure that we can see the most up-to-date version of what's happening on the floor. We can run our checkout. We'll have to run our checkout just as other order entry employees do at the end of our shift. We have a sales button. Should we populate any sales, we can see our sales today. We have a view settings option to adjust the view of what we see here in the Working with Tables screen and how we see it. We have a key functions button, which will definitely do some deep explorations into key functions today. We can get a check from another employee and just enter the number of the check and go directly to it. We can process refunds for customers, and we can click up here to see the different tables and tabs we have open. Currently we just have tables open in our environment, but if we had tabs we'd also see them listed here. In today's training we'll be exploring various common managerial functions such as applying comps and voids, applying payment to checks, and adding items to checks for our servers. We'll see that we can do some of these functions through the key functions area, as well as by accessing the checks both for the servers and during the server's interaction. So we'll see some different scenarios today. Let's start out by going out to our floor plan screen. So we'll click the table here on the left side of the screen, and that'll carry us back out to our floor plan. We found that table number 5 is going to need our assistance, so we'll go ahead and click on table number 5, and you see this takes us to the Aloha order entry screen. Let's explore the Aloha order entry screen. In the upper left of the order entry screen, we see a table which would take us back out to the floor plan. We have a clear button which would clear off any unordered items listed in blue here in the order entry check. We have a split check button should we need to split a check for a customer. We have a split seat button. We can hit done to exit the Aloha screen. We have our order modes across the upper right of the screen for send, to go, rush, and no make. We have our sub menus down the middle of the screen. I like to say that the sub menus are like sections of our menu, so if you were to click on the various sub menus, you'll see the different order items we can order here today for entrees, kids items, desserts, sub menus like NA beverages where we can order our drinks. Now of course over here on the left you can see some information about what's been ordered for this table. The table had ordered for the table chips and salsa and a sorbet, so it looks like they were sharing some items, and seat 1 and seat 2 also had some items specifically assigned to their seats. We can see down here in the lower portion of the screen that we have the ability to toggle between the table and the seats. We have a close button should we need to go to the payment screen and apply payment to the check. We can add another seat to the check by hitting next seat. We have the ability to transfer items from this check to another. In our order screen area we could print a receipt. We could delete or void an item off the check if needed. We'll do that soon. We could sell items in quantity. So if we needed to sell items in quantity like 4 Cokes, we can ring up the item and hit quantity and then 4, and it'll order 4 Cokes for us. We could repeat the most recently rung in item. We could modify an item to sell, so if we need to type a message or add some optional modifications, we can hit modify on the item. We can save a phone order, which will be for Aloha Takeout, and there's a hold button in the lower right should you hold items for future release in your environment. So our scenario with table number 5 is that they didn't like their burger. They said it was undercooked and they were unhappy with it, and unfortunately they didn't want anything else. So we're going to go ahead and comp this item off for the customer. So we had already accessed table 5 through the floor plan screen for the server. Now we're going to go ahead and go to the close screen in the lower left of the screen. We'll see that this is one way that we can apply a comp. That takes us to the close screen. Let's go ahead and explore the close screen. In the upper left of the close screen, we have our table, which would take us back out to our floor plan. We could print a copy of this check. We could print all the checks associated with this ticket should you have multiple checks here. You could return the check to the original owner. You could exit the screen. You could apply payment or comp, which we'll check out here in a second. We can see in the lower left that we could delete a payment or a comp should we apply it incorrectly or need to reapply something like that, a payment or a comp. We can adjust a payment. We can force an authorization. We can reprint a check or the guest receipts from the credit card vouchers here. We can apply an equal payment to the check should we want to split this up equally amongst the customers. And then we have a tax exempt button in the lower right of the screen should we need to apply a tax exempt for a customer. Let's go ahead and apply our comp to the burger on this check. In the upper right of the screen, we'll click the comp button. That's going to take us to our comp screen where we can see the different comps we have available. This time we're going to go ahead and use the manager percentage comp. When I click on manager percentage, it's asking me to select the items I'd like to comp today. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the burger over here on the left side of the screen, and I'm going to say OK. This is going to prompt me for the percentage that I'd like to comp off this item. Now in this case here, I agreed to comp 100% off the item, so I'm going to type in 100% and say OK. And that's going to take me back out here to the close screen where I can see that this comp, the manager percentage comp, has been applied for $9.50 to the check, and we've comped off the difference of that burger today for the customer. The balance is still due, and the payment is still yet to be applied, so we can go ahead and exit the screen. Now if we do hit exit, that takes us back out to our login screen. So let's log back in. Our number is 105, so we'll enter that number and say OK. It's always a good idea to protect your number if you're the manager, possibly use a magnetic swipe card where you could access the terminal with a swipe. We'll say OK, and now we're back here to our floor plan screen. In our next scenario, our server accidentally rang up an extra iced tea for table number 22, and they asked us if we wouldn't mind voiding that off. Now we saw that we could access the table through the floor plan, but this time let's go back over to the WWT screen. So we're going to click WWT in the upper right of the screen, working with tables. Now that we're here in the WWT screen, we want to see that we can access tables from here as well. Not everybody uses a floor plan, so sometimes we might just see this standard view without the floor plan, where we can also access the tables by clicking on them. So we're going to click on table number 22. And you can see here that seat 1 does have an extra iced tea rung up for them, which is what the server mentioned, so we're going to go ahead and void one of those off. So if we're going to apply the void, we're going to go ahead and highlight the item, and we're going to come down here in the lower portion of the screen and click the delete button. When we click delete, we'll be asked for a void reason, and of course we'll want to give good reason here as to why we didn't use this product. Now we're going to say that this was an overring, so we're going to go ahead and void that here. We'll go ahead and say that this was a wrong button. And we'll say OK. And now you can see that this iced tea has been voided off the check. It's kind of grayed out here, but still lists itself in the order entry check, but you can see it's no longer going to be on this check. When we go to the close screen, we'll also see here in the screen that this item has been voided off and is still listed in light gray, just letting us know that we haven't added it to the bill. And of course here you can see the void listed for the iced tea in red as well with the -$3. Let's go back out to our floor plan screen. From here in the floor plan, again, another great feature is that we can see the time a table was open, but we can also see the table owner, and we can see who's currently working these tables today. Sarah and Sally 101 and 102 are working all of our tables. So let's go ahead and go over here on the right side of the screen and click the WWT screen button. And we're back in the Working with Tables screen. Let's take a look at our View Settings button here in the Working with Tables screen. If we click View Settings, we do have some methods that we can sort these tickets with, so we can see that they can be sorted by the time they were opened, by the server's name, and the table name, And we can also limit what we see by revenue center should you have multiple revenue centers in your environment. We're just going to say OK here, and that's going to carry us back out here to the Working with Tables screen where we can see all the tables listed again. Now let's go hit View Settings and hit Server Name and say OK. And now we can see the servers running the tables here as well. Now we can see them listed by name, similar to the floor plan. So we can see the name of who's working the tables or the time they were open both in the floor plan and in the Working with Tables screen. In our next scenario, we're going to add to a check. Sarah's table number 2, when we walked by, asked us if we could order an extra item for them. So we're going to go ahead and click on table number 2 from our Working with Tables screen. That takes us to our Aloha order entry screen, where of course we can see the order for this customer here. They had a Diet Coke and a salmon with steamed veggies. They were asking if they could take a couple things to go. They wanted to do an appetizer today, so we'll go to the app sub menu. They're going to take a calamari to go, and they're also going to have a dessert to go, the chocolate cake. Now that we've ordered those items here on the left, we want to make sure that we let the kitchen know that they're going to be to go. So we're going to go ahead and click the to go order mode here in the upper right, and that's going to flag those items to go in the kitchen chit, so they know to make those items to go for the server. Now, of course, we just accessed the check to assist with the order entry, so now we can click the floor plan button, our table in the upper left, and go back out to our floor plan screen, and those items have been sent to the kitchen for the server, and we can assist them when they need it. Let's go back over to our Working with Tables screen, the WWT button in the upper right again. That, of course, takes us here to the Working with Tables screen. And let's go ahead and check out how to do a refund. When we click on the refund button, it's going to ask us for a reason, so we'd have to give a good reason here, and we can choose one of the various reasons, which can be modified as well. We'll just say testing today and say OK. This is going to prompt us to enter a table number, which we'll have to enter a valid table number for this refund, so we can say table 10 and OK. And that's going to carry us into the Aloha order entry screen. Now when processing a refund this way, we're going to have to ring up the items that the customer had, and this customer said they had a Sprite and a sandwich, a turkey club with French fries. So we'll go ahead and ring up those items. You can see we had to go to the modifier group to apply that French fry item to the check here. Now that we've got the items rung up, you can see they are listed in blue on the left side of the screen, but with a negative next to them, meaning we are going to refund the customer. So now when we come down here to the close button, that takes us to our close screen where we can see the items listed here in the order entry check, the Sprite and the turkey club with French fries for -3 and -9, the subtotal, tax total, and the refund total of $12.96. Now we're going to process this refund to cash, so we'll go ahead and click the cash button over here. It is going to prompt us that we're going to close this one to cash by default, so we'll just click the screen, and now we can see that we have applied that to the customer, and we can hit close, and that will close the check. And it's saying, do we want to issue the refund for the customer of $12.96? We're going to say yes, and then we can refund the customer. We're back here in our Aloha floor plan screen. Back in the Working with Tables screen, let's go ahead and explore our key functions. So we'll click Key Functions in the lower right of the screen. This is going to take us to the Special Functions screen. Let's explore the Special Functions screen. We have a tab for Reports, for Financial, for Alerts, for Employee, and System. Each of these tabs will contain various managerial functions that we can access, whereas other staff members won't be able to access these, and they'll be grayed out for them. Let's start by clicking on Alerts. We don't have any alerts in our system set up today, so when we click Alerts, we're going to get a message that says there's no alerts to display. So we can go ahead and click in the background and eliminate that screen. Next, let's explore the Financial tab. So we'll click Financial, and this takes us into the Financial screen. Let's explore the Financial screen. From here, we can void items, so we can actually apply voids to checks from here. We could assign promotional discounts should we use promos. We can assign comps to checks. We could adjust the payments. We could open a closed check should a server need a check reopened. We could reprint a guest check. We could assign a gratuity to a check. We could assign a special menu lineup to a certain time of day. We could transfer tables from here. We could force a transfer. We could view the available tables or the tables that are open currently. We can assign a price change. We could manage our cash drawers. We could manage cash functions such as petty accounts. We could manage item availability and adjust the item availability counts. We could process a refund through EDC, and we could print all open checks. Let's do some deeper dives into some of these financial functions. Let's click on Void Items in the upper left. When we click on Void Items, it's going to ask us to choose the employee we'd like to void the items for. So we're going to say Sarah 103, highlight them and say OK. That's going to take us to the area where we can choose which table we'd like to provide the void for. So we're going to go ahead and click on Table 5 and say OK. And that's going to take us to this screen here where we can see the check listed on the left. So it's the Void Item screen where we can highlight the item in question. We'll say it's going to be this chips and salsa and say OK. And it's going to prompt us for our void reason. This time we'll just say testing and OK. And it's again prompting us if we'd like to confirm that we want to void this item off. We'll say OK. And that'll go ahead and take us back to the financial screen, and that item's been voided off that check for the server. Next, let's take a look at assigning a comp through the financial screen. If we click Assign Comp, it's going to ask us to choose the server again. So we'll highlight the server in question and say OK. That, of course, takes us to our screen where we can choose which check it is we want to apply the discount to. So we'll highlight the check in question and say OK again. And here it takes us to the comp screen where we can see that the comps are listed here on the right, and we can choose to apply the comp. We're going to go ahead and say that this manager percentage comp of 10% off is going to be applied to this whole bill. So we're going to highlight all the items and say OK. And that's going to prompt us for our percent where we'll enter our 10%. So 10 OK. And now we can see that we have applied that manager percentage comp for 10%. It's taken $2.55 off the bill. We'll go ahead and say done. And that's going to take us back out to our select check screen. We can go ahead and say done again. We could certainly apply other discounts here if needed. This time we'll just say done. And that's going to take us back out to our financial screen. Let's check out the open a closed check option. So if we come over here, we can open a closed check. And we're going to have to select the employee in question. We're going to say this is for 101 again. So we'll highlight 101, say OK. Now we're going to have to choose the check that had been closed. So you can see they have one check that's been closed. Scenarios come up like this where maybe a server applied payment to the wrong check, something along those lines, or accidentally closed the check and we need to reopen it. So we're going to go ahead and make sure this check is highlighted and say OK. Again, that will prompt us here. If we want to reopen table 22, I'm going to say OK. And that carries us back out to the financial screen, and that check has been reopened for the server. Let's click on the View Tables button. When we click View Tables, we're going to get a great view of the open tables we have. You can see the table number here listed on the left, the server's name, the time it's been open, number of guests, and the amount in total. Now when we come over here, we have the ability to print these checks. We can also sort them differently. We could sort by time. We could sort by table or server. So we can click these tabs here down at the bottom to sort our view. If we hit done, it's going to carry us back out to our screen. But if we hit sort by guest, we can see that again, we're just using these different sort features to get some different views of the tables. Sort by amount or by revenue center. And that's asking us to filter to a certain revenue center. We'll just hit cancel here. And let's go over here to this view button in the lower right of the screen. This is a really great feature in Aloha. When we get to the view screen here, we can actually see that we can view the table details. We have the ability to print here, but another great feature is we can hit view times. This is going to show us the exact times that these items were rung into the kitchen or bar. And so if you do have any disputes about when an item was rung in or how long it took to get out, you can see here when the server rang it in, and that gives you a better interpretation of about how long the customer's been waiting. So this is a nice feature here. Just remember you have to view here employee or view prices to be able to see the different times employee or of course the different prices the items were sold at. So it actually toggles there through some different fields, employee, prices, and times. Let's go ahead and hit done. And that of course carries us back out here to our view open table screen where we'll hit done again, and that carries us back out to the financial screen. Let's talk about assigning cash drawers. In most environments, cashiers and bartenders will have the ability to assign themselves to the cash drawer, and others will have to assign them ourselves. So if we click cash drawers, it's going to allow us to assign employees to the cash drawer. Now you can see the employees listed here on the left, and these are the employees eligible to use the cash drawer today. If we were to highlight an employee in question, we can see that we can click in the blue box here on the right and assign that employee to the drawer. Now if we hit done, that employee will be able to use the cash drawer, open it, and close transactions. Another neat feature here in the financial area is that you can print all the open checks. So if you do hit print all open checks, it will print all open checks at your local receipt printer. We have the ability to adjust item availability up here in the upper right as well. So let's explore this area. This is a really great feature. When we click item availability, it's going to take us to the item availability screen where we can see the different sub-menus we have. Now if we click through these sub-menus, we can see the different items we have available. And if we need to put counts on them, we certainly can. So let's go through a couple scenarios. We're getting a little bit low on mozzarella sticks, so we're going to go ahead and highlight the mozzarella stick item and say that we have 2 orders. So we'll go ahead and click right here and increase this here quantity on hand to 2 currently available. Now when we say OK, you're going to be able to see here a little 2 in the lower left of the box, which lets us know that when we sell the last 2 mozzarella sticks, they're going to be listed as unavailable in the front of house submenu order entry screen. So we'll take a look at that as well. Now a couple other things need to be adjusted here. We're going to go to dessert, and we're out of fruit tart. So we're going to highlight fruit tart, and we're going to click on the right here, not available, and say OK. And that's going to go ahead and put this red circle with the slash through it right on the item and lets the servers and bartenders and cashiers up front know that that item is not available for sale. Let's go ahead and hit done. And that takes us back out here to our financial screen where we're actually going to hit exit and go back out to our working with table screen so we can go take a look at what that looks like in real time in the sub menus out front. So we'll hit exit. That takes us back to our working with table screen where we can go ahead and go to the order entry screen. So why don't we go ahead and just click on table number 5, and we can see here if we flip through the sub menus that there's 2 mozzarella sticks, and of course if we come down here to desserts we can see that that fruit tart is also not available. Now let's take a look at what happens when we order those mozzarella sticks. So if we come back here to apps, we're just going to place this order here for the 2 mozzarella sticks right on this check. So I'll go ahead and hit mozzarella sticks twice and send those in. And you can see the direct result here. We've run out of mozzarella sticks, and it's going to black that out and make sure that we know that mozzarella sticks are not available with that red circle with the slash. So let's go back over here to our floor plan, and we're back out to the floor plan screen where we can go back to working with tables. And again, let's go back to our key functions area, financial, and let's actually adjust item availability one more time. This is the other way that we could work this. We could actually make items available again. So if we click on item availability and we go to apps, if we do get an order in today and we get those mozzarella sticks back in stock, we can highlight this item and we can say no limit and say OK. And that of course is going to make the mozzarella sticks available unlimited again. If we say done, that carries us back out to the financial screen. A couple key points with item availability. These counts will generally reset overnight as the end of day runs, unless you're using the carryover category in the back office where the items can hold their count overnight. Something to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and say back and go back out here to our special function screen. Next, let's explore the System tab. When we click on System, this is going to allow us to do a couple key functions here. We can reroute a printer, we could reroute a printer group, we could query a cash card, we could push the end of day. It's not very common that we're going to do that here. There's a calibrate button for some of the older terminals that need to be manually calibrated. A lot of the newer terminals are self-calibrating. We can see there's a system monitor option and shutdown terminal. A lot of these things we'll probably steer clear of most times, but let's check out rerouting a printer. We can do printer reroutes here, and if we need to reroute things, we could. In certain circumstances, if you have an issue with a certain printer or certain volume calls for you to reroute things to a different part of the kitchen, you can reroute stuff. So if I do have to highlight a reroute, I can go ahead and highlight the printer in question that I want to reroute, and then I'm going to come down here and click Change Routing. Now this is going to ask me which printer I'd like to reroute these items that are going to print to the bar to. And again, thoughts are, is if the bar printer is not working, I might need to reroute those to the terminal receipt bar printer, so that way these will print at the receipt printer in the bar. So I could say term for receipt and OK, and that's going to reroute those bar prints to the terminal for receipt printer. Now similar to item availability, this is going to reroute overnight, or excuse me, it's going to reset overnight. It'll reset that reroute overnight, and we can just consider that we could set this back if needed manually here, or we could even hit reset all and that'll set everything back the way it was before we started interacting. Let's go ahead and hit done here. and go back out here and check out the reroute printer group option. Sometimes we'll see in the kitchen that things are routed to printer groups, so we can route things to more than one printer at once. And if we were to arrow down here again, you'd see some various printers available. If I needed to reroute certain print groups, again, I could do it by grouping the printers together. If the kitchen needs to go to a different location, I could hit change routing. And again, this would allow me to reroute to a different printer group. So maybe we have kitchen daytime or kitchen night, but we can get some clever reroutes going on depending on the time of day, depending on the volume, and maybe some issues with some hardware that we could have some kind of workaround temporarily to make that work while we get the new printer in place. So we'll go ahead and say cancel here, and we'll hit done, and we'll come back out here to our system screen. If we hit query cash card, we could query a cash card like a gift card from a customer. And from here, we'll just go ahead and hit back and go back out to the special function screen. Let's go check out a reports tab. When we click reports, it's going to take us to the report screen, and let's explore the report screen and see the different reports we have available. In the upper left, we have restaurant sales, we have server sales, we have clock in and out times, we have a flash report, we can see the sales listed by revenue center, we have a break alert report, should we use breaks in our environment. We have an employees clocked in report and a payment report, so we can see the details of the payments we've accepted today. We have a labor report, an item availability report, which directly correlates with that item availability we were adjusting, so we can see the totals there should we be out of things. We have an employee breaks report, custom reports, our product mix report, so we can see our product sales, and a rewards report should we be using loyalty programs. Let's take a look at some of these reports. In the upper left, I'll click Restaurant Sales. This is going to give me a nice snapshot of the sales summary for today. We can see things like the summary section here. We can see the gross net sales, taxes collected, payments collected, and a cash balance. We can also see here the day parts listed across the top for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the totals correlating with those. Down here across the bottom, we do have some tabs available that we can see. We are in the summary sales tab, so we can go to net totals and just see the net totals listed for today for the categorical sales of food, NA beverage, liquor, beer, wine, and retail. And of course, again, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner day parts, and our total here on the right. If we click sales, sales is going to show us the sales with inclusive taxes for the sales categories of food, NA beverage, liquor, beer, wine, and retail. We have a labor report that's going to give us a snapshot summary of our labor. We can see our front of house labor dollars and percentage, and back of house, and a couple other key ones that we use here for food and bar totals, and of course the total percentages in dollar and in percentage here at the bottom. If we click payments, we can see the different payments we've accepted today for Visa, American Express, MasterCard, and the totals listed. We can see any comps we've applied today, so this is a good area to go ahead and check and see a snapshot of your comps applied. We can see we've applied a couple manager percentage comps here today for a total of $12.05. If we use promotional discounts in our environment, we'll see those listed just like the comps. Again, we have the day part sections and the totals for the discounts provided. And we also have the taxes tab where we can see the different taxes we've collected today for exclusive, inclusive, retail, and no tax totals. If you do see these arrows in the lower portion of the screen, that means you can get more information here on the right, and that's just extending our tax area a little bit to get our total in there. So it's a little bit cut off by the terminal screen, but we can click the arrow to get back over. And of course, we do have the ability to print these reports, so I can hit print or print all the reports. And that's going to print at your local receipt printer. In this case, I'm going to hit done, and that'll bring us back out here to our report screen. Let's take a look at server sales. The server sales are going to be broken out here by the server, and you can see the time that they clocked in and the gross sales they've promoted at this point, and the number of guests and checks they've opened. Down here at the bottom, we can see the different performance measures we have in play for per person average and the alcohol sales that they've promoted as well. So we will see those performance measure totals in here as well, which is great. And then of course we do have the ability to print these both by the employee or just print them off individually. So I'll hit done. And that of course carries us back out to our report screen. Let's click the clock in and out time report. This report's going to show us each of the employees clocked in and when they clocked in and when they have clocked out, so you can see the totals for in and out and the total hours and declared tips for those employees. Again, another printable report. If we click the arrow in the lower portion of the screen, of course that's going to give us a little bit more information down here for both the manager and a couple other employees we can see here that have been clocked in and out throughout the day. Again, completely printable, so we'll go back up and hit done. Let's check out the flash report. The flash report is just going to break down sales here categorically for food and beverage, liquor, beer, wine, and retail, and give us a snapshot of the labor. So you can see here that we have some tabs again across the bottom where we can flip through the tabs and see the entire day summary. This is going to break down the sales and guests by the hour. It's kind of a nice area to see that. We can see the entire day's net sales summary. Again, another flash report broken up by the hour and by the day part and sales category. We can see the entire day's performance here. And again, we're just seeing here the performance measure totals for performance for PPA and alcohol sales. And then we get the snapshot of the labor flash report, where again, we can see the labor by the hour, the hours, the dollars, the percentages, and of course the different sections of our restaurant, front of house, back of house, food totals, and bar totals if we click over here farther to the right. And again, we'll just go ahead and click done to go back out of here to the report screen. Let's take a look at the employee clocked in report. This is actually going to print a report at your local receipt printer and show you which employees are currently clocked in. So if you hit employees clocked in, it's going to go ahead and print that chip for you at the receipt printer. We can click on the labor report, and that report is also going to print at your local receipt printer and give you a breakdown of your labor totals. So you can see it's letting us know with a message that it's printing that report for us. We have the employee breaks report and a product mix. The product mix is going to list out all the individual items that we've sold today, and you can see here we've sold the French dip 3 times for an average price of $10.50, and it represents 14.16% of our sales today. Now again, a lot of these flash reports, you're going to see these tabs across the bottom, so you can sort things differently or see the information in different forms. We can hit quantity and sort them by quantity sold. We can hit name, so we can see them by name alphabetically. And we can also hit price to see them listed by price, most to least. So we can see that listed here. And now we can go ahead and print or hit done. And that takes us back out to our report screen. One last report to touch on here would be the item availability report. Again, another report that's going to print at your local receipt printer. If you hit item availability, you'll get a nice listing of the item availability you've entered in the other key function area, so you can see what's available and what you're out of. Let's go ahead and say back and go back out here to our special function screen, where we'll finish up with the employee tab. So we'll click on the employee tab. Let's explore the employee special functions area. We have the ability to delete a clock out, to delete somebody's checkout. We can adjust tip share, edit a clock in time. We can adjust wages. We could view the schedule. We could add a break should you use breaks in your environment. We could reprint somebody's clock out, reprint their checkout should they have lost it or spilled iced tea on it or something like that. We could change our own password, which is going to allow us to sign ourselves to a MAG card. We could clear the password of another employee. We could edit breaks and also release a locked employee. Let's check out some of these employee functions. We have an employee who needs to get back on the clock. They've already run their checkout and clocked out, and they need to come back on and join us because we have some high volume picking up. We thought they were going to be able to be cut early, but hey, we got to bring them back on, so we're going to go ahead and delete their clock out. And now we're going to have to find the individual in question, which is employee 101, and highlight them and say OK. And that's going to prompt us here. If we'd like to delete their clock out time, we'll say OK. And then, of course, it is prompting us from there if we'd like to delete their checkout. This individual is an order entry employee, so they do ring things up, so we'll need to be sure that we delete their checkout so they can go back to ringing. So we're going to go ahead and say yes, and that's going to go ahead and reopen their checkout and let them get back in and start to manage and process transactions again. Now, if we just had to delete the checkout, we could click delete checkout and highlight the individual and delete the checkout for them, should they have not clocked out. One thing you want to watch out for with this, if an employee clocks out and then clocks back in, we can't delete that original clock out and checkout. Unfortunately, it's going to be closed, so we just want to watch out for little things like that. Hopefully, we'll be able to catch that before the employee clocks back into the terminal. Next, let's work on editing clock in and out times. So I'm going to hit edit clock in here. That's going to take me to the screen where I have to select the employee in question. So I'll highlight employee 102 and say OK. And from here, you can see I have these arrows to go up and down for the hours and minutes for the clock in and out time. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the minutes for this clock in. I'm going to bring this down to 3 p.m. You can see I just adjusted the minutes down there, and I can say OK, and that's going to adjust that clock in time for that employee. Next, let's edit a clock out time. So we'll hit edit clock in again, and we have to find the employee in question who clocked out. We'll highlight that employee and say OK, and we can now adjust the clock out time. As before, we could see that there was only the clock in time listed. Now we can see the arrows both up and down for hours and minutes for clock in and out. So we'll go ahead and adjust this time here. Just make this 2 o'clock and say OK, and that's going to take me back out here to the employee screen. So we've edited some clock in and out times. Let's go over here and talk about clearing a password. If we need to clear an individual's password, we'll click the clear password button. This generally means they're having a hard time logging into the screen. Sometimes you'll be encouraged to have your password cleared by the manager, or when they have their password cleared, they'll also get a message letting them know that they need to log in with the employee number that's been assigned to their employee profile in the back office. So again, we'd have to highlight the employee in question and say OK and clear that password. We do have the options to reprint a clock out or a checkout slip. And of course, releasing a locked employee would mean that you have an employee who's locked on a terminal. This may occasionally happen where there's something going on with a terminal and an employee's logged in and they end up getting locked. So you can sometimes come here and find that releasing them will let them back out of that terminal so they can use another terminal. Let's go ahead and say back. That takes us back out here to our special functions screen. And now we've completed the tour of the special key functions area, so we can hit exit. And that carries us back out here to our working with tables screen. Another key financial function is to transfer tables. Let's check out transfer tables. From here we can see we have to select the employee we'd like to transfer the table from, so we'll highlight employee 102 and say OK. And that's going to list the tables that they have open under them here on the left, so we'll highlight table 20, and we'll also click OK down here in the lower portion of the screen. And that's going to prompt us to pick which employee we'd like to transfer these to. So we're going to head and highlight employee 101 and say OK. And it's asking us if we'd like to confirm that we want to move this table from Sam 102 to Sally 101. We're going to say yes. And that carries us back out here. Now that server is going to have a pending incoming transfer. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like for them. Back here at the login screen, we're going to log in with employee 101's number and say OK. Where immediately we'll be prompted that we have an incoming transfer. So we're going to have to go to the Working with Tables screen to accept this. So we'll click WWT screen in the upper right. And of course from here we're in the Working with Tables screen and we can see this pending transfer coming in. We can see it's coming from the manager. It's table 20, so we'll highlight the table here and we'll hit New Order in the lower left of the screen. And that's going to prompt us to choose whether this is a table or tab. So we're going to say a table and OK. And from here we'll have to determine the table number. This is another good point of reference. You can also change a table number if needed here. So if a table did move and you need to change the number of the table, you're going to go ahead and change that number here and say OK. We're going to change this to table 26. And this employee just now accepted that transfer, but as table 26 now, and they'll be able to see that listed under them when they clock back in or log back into the screen. So if we click the table in the upper left, that carries us back out here to the floor plan screen, and if we click the Working with Tables screen, we'll see our new table, table 26, listed here. Our table 26 isn't listed in the floor plan, so it's outside the floor plan, so we're only going to see that one listed here in the Working with Tables screen. So from here, we're ready to wrap up our shift. It's shift change, and we're going to go ahead and run our checkout in the lower portion of the screen. So we'll go ahead and click Checkout, and that's going to prompt us if we are ready to run our checkout. We're going to say yes. And of course from here, we're ready to clock out. And that takes us to our clock out screen where we can click the clock out button in the lower portion. And again, that will prompt us to clock out as the manager, so we'll say clock out. And we're back out here in our login screen. Let's take a look at our checkout. Looking at our checkout here today, we can see our basic information across the top, our revenue center, the job code we are working as manager, and of course we can see the sales we promoted today. We only processed a refund, so we actually have negative sales for food and a beverage listed for us here, but a lot of times our checkout will just be all zeros, that we didn't really do much order entry, but in this case today we did have to process a refund. Let's work our way a little farther down the checkout where we can see our total cash owed is negative $12.96 as we did process that refund out of the cash drawer for the customer. Here, of course, just as any checkout, we can see the employee and cash received by signature lines. And, of course, we do get our payment detail, audit detail, and, of course, our performance detail at the bottom, which, again, most times with manager profiles, we'll see these checkouts will either be all zeros or they'll have any transactions processed for sales or refunds. That's going to complete our training for today. If you have interest in learning more about Aloha Manager front of house operations, I do recommend checking out the server training module and the cashier and bartender training modules to further your front of house knowledge. You can also check out the Aloha Manager Manager Reference Guide, which is going to cover all front of house managerial functions in great detail. You can find the Manager Guide on ncr.com or by reaching out to your local account representative. I do appreciate you taking the class with me today, and I wish you the best of luck using the Aloha system. Have a great day.